we're going to look at lesson 11, that's Genesis. And we also start a new kind of series. Okay, I call it Voice Service. And today we're going to read Genesis 37, verses 12 to 36. I titled the lesson, Beside Oneself. Beside Oneself. If you look at the vocabulary, you can see beside oneself. Means what? Means very upset, right? You can use beside myself, beside himself, beside yourself. And now you see the example, right? And the example is from the Message Bible. And here it says what? Beside himself, he went to his brothers. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? You can see from our handout. Okay, that would be verse probably 30, right? Can you see it? Verse 30, right? Here it says, beside himself, he went to his brothers. The boy is gone. What am I going to do? Okay, what am I going to do? Today's reading passage, right? Genesis chapter 37, verse 12 to 36. All right? 1, 2, 3. Let's go. His brothers had gone off to Shechem, where they were pasturing their father's flocks. Israel said to Joseph, your brothers are with the flocks in Shechem. Come, I want to send you to them. Joseph said, I'm ready. He said, go and see how your brothers and the flocks are doing and bring me back a report. He sent off from the valley of Hebron to Shechem. A man met him as he was wandering through the fields and asked him, what are you looking for? I'm trying to find my brothers. Do you have any idea where they're grazing their flocks? The man said, they were left here. But I overheard them say, let's go to Dothan. So Joseph took off, tracked his brothers down, and found them in Dothan. They spotted him off in the distance. By the time he got to them, they had cooked up a plot to kill him. The brothers were saying, here comes that dreamer. Let's kill him and throw him into one of these old cisterns. We can say that a vicious animal ate him up. We'll see what his dreams amount to. Reuben heard the brothers talking and intervened to save him. We are not going to kill him. No murder. Go ahead and throw him in this cistern out here in the wild, but don't hurt him. Reuben planned to go back there and get him out and take him back to his father. When Joseph reached his brothers, they ripped up the fancy coat he was wearing, wrapped him, and threw him into a cistern. The cistern was dry. There wasn't any water in it. There they sat down to eat their supper. Looking up, they saw a caravan of Ishmaelites on their way from Gilead. Their camels loaded with spices, ointments, and perfumes to sell in Egypt. Judah said, brothers, why are you going to get out killing our brother and concealing the evidence? Let's sell him to the Ishmaelites, but let's not kill him. He is, after all, our brother, our own flesh and blood. His brothers agreed. By that time, the Midianite traders were passing by. His brothers pulled Joseph out of the cistern and sold him for 20 pieces of silver to the Ishmaelites, who took Joseph with them down to Egypt. Later, Reuben came back and went to the cistern. No Joseph, he ripped off his clothes in despair. Beside himself, he went to his brothers. The boy is gone. What am I going to do? They took Joseph's coat, butchered a goat, and dipped the coat in the blood. They took the fancy coat back to their father and said, we found this. Look it over. Do you think that this is your son's coat? He recognized it at once. My son's coat, a wild animal has eaten him. Joseph torn limb from limb. Jacob tore his clothes in grief, dressed in rough burlap. and mourned his son a long, long time. His sons and daughters tried to comfort him, but he refused their comfort. I will go to the grave mourning my son. Oh, how his father wept for him. In Egypt, the Midianites sold Joseph to Potiphar, one of Potiphar's officials, manager of the household affairs. Okay, that's the end in today's Bible passage. And let's start with the vocabulary part, and then we can move on to the overview and the whole story. All right. The first word I have is a pasture, right? A pasture. You can look at the definition. It's to feed animals in the grass area, right? And the example basically is from the Message Bible, so we can read all together, right? They were pasturing their father's flocks, right? We just finished reading the passage. Who were pasturing their father's flocks? Who? We know that Jacob's sons, right? Okay, Jacob's sons, right? Because Jacob sent his son to pasture his flocks. You remember where when we just finished in Shechem, right? But we'll talk about that later in more detail about the whole story. And that's a pasture. You can use the word tender, right? We tend to use the word tender, right? You can say, oh, they were tendering their father's flocks. Okay, we can also pasture use the like a church, right? You can use also. Sometimes we say pastor, that's the house number, but anyway, pretty similar word, come from the similar root. The second word, wander, right? You see the word wander. To travel without direction, right? To travel without direction. He was wandering through the fields. Who was wandering through the fields? He. According to today's Bible reading. Who? Joseph, right?
Yes.
Joseph, right? Joseph was wandering through the fields, right? The fields, looking for his brothers, right? His brother. Oh, we know his brothers were pasturing their father's flocks. Now, flocks here are referring to what? Referring to sheep and goats. Okay. Now, next phrase will be track down, right? To follow in order to find something. Right? Now let's read the sentence here. Joseph took off, tracked his brother down, and found them in Dothan. Right? Okay. That's a track down. Next phrase, off in the distance, really far away, something really far away. They spotted him off in the distance. They means who? In the passage here. That's Joseph's brothers, right? They spotted him. They spotted means what? They saw him, right? They noticed him far in the distance. And they can recognize that's their brother Joseph approaching them in the far distance. Okay, in the far distance. Oh, all right. Next phrase will be cook up, right? Cook up, to plan to do something dishonestly. They cooked up a plan to kill him. Who is they? Joseph's brothers. Right? They cooked up a plan to kill him. So we should cook up in a negative way, right? Usually we don't use the positive. That's why here, to plan to do something dishonestly. Okay. Next word would be vicious.
Vicious.
Okay, cruel and violent. Vicious. Sometimes we use the word to describe animals, violent animal, or vicious animals, or vicious people, violent, evil, wicked people. You can use the vicious. Okay, usually we have vicious circle, right? We keep doing something bad and bad and bad again and again and again. Okay, we can say that vicious animal added up. We can say that that's the Joseph brothers, right? We can say the vicious animal of ferocious animal adding up, fierce animal adding up. Amount to phrase, to become, right? Amount to. We'll see what is the dreams amount to, right? That means what? Become. You can use the word become, right? We'll see what is the dreams become, or we can see what the dream turned out to be. Okay. He's the person likes to dream, likes to have a lot of dreams. That's what Joseph's brothers described Joseph, right? Among two. Next word, intervene. To step in, to change something. Okay, here's the sample sentence. Reuben heard the brothers talking and intervened to save him. Save him means him refers to Joseph, right? Okay. And he wanted to save his youngest brother. Okay, younger brother, Joseph. Next word, rip. To tore apart violently, right? They ripped off the fancy coat he was wearing. Now you can change the word like that means a tear, T-E-A-R. That's a rip, right? Oh, here you can use the past tense, right? They tore the fancy coat he was wearing. Caravan out, the phrase, a large group of people traveling together, especially traders. Right? They saw a caravan of Ishmaelites on their way to Egypt. That's caravan. Next word, conceal. To keep something secretly. To keep something in secret or conceal. Are we going to kill our brother and conceal the evidence? Who said that? Who said that?
Joseph's brother.
Who? But which one? Which brother? Huh? I know that's Joseph's brother, but which one? You remember that?
Reuben.
Is that Reuben or?
No.
No, it's Judah, right?
Judah.
Is that Judah?
Judah
Okay.
wants
Judah.
to kill.
Mm-hmm. So what he said here is that are we going to kill our brother and keep the evidence in secret? Okay, that's what it means, conceal. Okay, next phrase, beside oneself, very upset. Beside himself, he went to his brothers, what am I going to do? Okay, who says that? Reuben, right?
Mm-hmm.
The eldest one, right? The eldest brother. Next phrase, looked over, right? Looked over. To look something carefully. We found this, looked it over, right? We found this, looked over. That's we means what here? Joseph's brothers. They returned home and said to their father Jacob, we found this. What is this here in the passage? That's what? Joseph's fancy clothes, right? Mm-hmm. Tearing limb from limb to kill in a violent way. Joseph torn limb from limb. And the sentence should be Joseph was torn limb from limb. Okay, and Joseph was torn limb from limb. Okay, that's about our new words in today's Bible passage. And if you want to read the whole reading today's Bible passage, you can check out the website. We have a link. Okay, you can check the website. Actually, that's from Genesis 37 verses 12 to 36. Now, I want to skip overview because you can read it, but we don't want to spend time reading the overview. Do you need to read the overview? This is a kind of summary. It's a summary of today's passage. Do we want to read it or we skip? We can just skip, okay. We'll just skip it. Now let's go to icebreaker. That's usually we begin with icebreaker, but now we just move down a little bit. Question number 1. Of whom were you envious when you were growing up? Here, were you envious means were you jealous? Were you jealous? Of whom were you jealous when you were growing up? Anyone? Probably maybe if you have sibling, your brother or sister, and your brother or sister like smart, then you probably you're jealous, right? Or maybe your brother and sister are, more prettier, prettier than you, more beautiful than you, you're probably jealous of, right? So, or maybe your class your classmate, right? And your classmates always got good grades than you. You probably jealous of your classmate. We all have someone we are envious of, right? But the most important thing is that we try to avoid jealousy, but continue to learn from the person. If we can find someone we can learn from. That's a good thing for us. Now, second question: what was the last time you felt deeply sad, depressed, very upset? This question is like when Jacob heard that his favorite son died, right? Okay, killed by maybe animals. He was very, very upset. He was sad. He refused to be comforted. Remember that his family tried to comfort Jacob, but Jacob refused to be comforted. Is there anything that you feel so sad and you refuse, like Jacob, to be comforted? Maybe your loved one passed away. Sometimes even if you love pets and your pets passed away, right? You feel so sad. Maybe 1 day, 2 days, or maybe more than a week. But according to doctor, psychologist, psychiatrists, they say if you are upset or depressed for like 2 weeks, you probably suffer from depression. Right? Okay. We know God is the one who can truly comfort us. All right. Now let's go to today's comprehension part. Now, question number 1. Let's work together. Question number 1. Basically, you can follow. I gave the questions verse by verse. Question number 1. What were Joseph's brothers doing in Shechem?
They were pasturing their father's flock.
Yes, right. Here it says what? They were pasturing their father's flocks in Shechem, right? When we read the story, we need to. Sometimes we read that we use the where, right? Where does the story take place, and what happens, right? Or when, or how. So this is the place very interesting, like a Shechem, right? Why? Did you remember where they lived? Jacob and his brothers. Last week we studied Jacob and his family were going back to their hometown, right? Because he had spent 20 years in Paddan Aram in his uncle's home or house. Now God told Jacob, now get up, ready to go home. Okay? Where's their home? Canaan, right? That's in Canaan, right? Yes, Canaan. They lived in Canaan, exactly live in Canaan, right? They lived in Canaan. But which part of Canaan? Basically, it's Hebron, right? Now we studied about the Hebron, right? The Hebron. Hebron, the name means what? Fellowship, the place of fellowship. Remember, God made his appearance to Abraham. That's where Abraham lived. So now you think about from Hebron to Shechem, it's pretty far away. When I look it up, I check up some commentary. It said probably 100 miles equals 116 kilometers. It probably takes 2 days, right? By walking, right? Probably. So but definitely Shechem is a place where you can pasture your flocks, because the fertile land, you can see the grass areas, you can feed your animals. That's why Jacob sent his sons over there, right? Otherwise they can just stay in where? They can just stay in Hebron, right? They don't have go far away to pass through their flocks. Okay, so we know the story took place in Shechem, right? In Shechem. Now, next question: what did Israel tell Joseph to do in verses 13 and 14? And 14. Now you can see Israel, right? Israel means what? Jacob, right?
Yes.
He said to Joseph, what? Your brothers are with flocks in Shechem. Come, I want to send you to them, right? I want to send you to them. I want to send you to check on your brother, right? Your brothers.
You want a little spy.
Oh, it's the little spy? Yeah, we have another question about that later. We probably can go and see that later. But it's quite interesting, right? He sent his son Joseph to check on his brothers, right? His other brothers, okay? His other brothers. Yes, it's like a little spy, probably. Okay, but we'll look at that later. Number 3, who met Joseph when it arrived in the area of Shechem? What did he say to Joseph in verse 15? You know what did Joseph's answer is a father request? And Joseph said, I am ready, right? He said what?
Yes.
Okay. And NIV said, very well. He replied, very well. Oh, I will go. I will send him to them. Very well. That means good, I will go. I will go as you said. Now, what about the question here? Who met Joseph when he arrived in the area of Shechem? What did he say to Joseph in verse 15?
Man.
A man, right? Yes, a man, right? A man. Exactly, a man. Yes. What did the man say to Joseph? Verse 15.
I'm trying. What are you looking for?
What are you looking for? Yes. What are you looking for? Right? A man just met with Joseph, and so Joseph was wandering. In other words, wandering, right? Wandering means what? Traveling without direction, purpose, right?
Yes.
So he was looking, right? I don't know how big the area like Shechem, right? But definitely he was wandering, and he didn't see his brothers, right? Because his father Jacob said to Joseph, "Now your brothers were pasturing flocks in Shechem, right? When he arrived in Shechem, he didn't see his brother, right? Well, I just say it's how many miles? 100, probably 100 miles, 116 kilometers." And saw nothing. But luckily, fortunately, there was a man who just saw his brothers and told him where his brother went. So now let's see. And 4, what did Joseph respond to the man in verse 16? 16, Joseph said what?
I'm trying to find my brothers. Do you have any idea where they are grazing their flocks?
Yeah, they are grazing their flocks. Yes, and he just told the man, I'm looking for my brothers. They are pasturing my father Jacob's flocks. Okay, good. What did the man? Question number 5. What did the man reply to Joseph? What did Joseph do then in verse 17?
The man said, "Let's left here." But I overheard them said, "Let's go to the Dothan."
That's the first part of the question, right? Yes. The man replied to Joseph, I just overheard, right? I overheard them say, let's go to Dothan, right? What did Joseph do then? Joseph what?
Took off.
Tracked his brother down and found them in Dothan, right? And Joseph didn't stop in Shechem and continued to walk up. Dothan is further than Shechem from his house Hebron, right? So maybe walk up for hours, maybe 4 hours or 5 hours. Still far away from, from Shechem. Okay, and now let's move on to question number 6. What did Joseph's brother plan to do by the time he arrived in verse 18? In verse 18, you look at the message, 18 verses 18 to 20, right?
Yeah, they spotted him off the distance. By the time he got to land, they had cooking up a plot to kill him.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Now you can see 20, right? 18 to 20. They spotted him. They saw him out in the distance. By the time he got to them, they had cooked up a plot to kill him, right? A plot to kill him. All right, they plotted to kill him. Now, that's the 18. Now let's go to 7. What did Joseph's brothers call him in verse 19? What did they say to Joseph? The brothers were saying what? Here comes the dreamer, right? Here comes the dreamer. Let's kill him, right? Let's kill him, right? Okay, now question number 8. I want to finish here and then we'll start a little bit. How could Joseph's brother get away from killing of him in verse 20? What did they say? Let's kill him and what? And
threw him into the one of these old cisterns.
We can say that the vicious animal ate him up. We'll see what his dreams amount to. Okay, now let's go back because the message, kind of lumped these 3 verses together. So verse 18, they spotted him off. Now we know Joseph listened to the man. The man said, I overheard your brothers saying they are going to Dothan. And Joseph, took off and they brought down and then found their brothers. Then verse 18, if you look at the message, the Bible says, by the time he got to them, they had cooked up a plot to kill him. So by the time, before Joseph arrived, right? Because they spotted him in the far distance, right? And they start thinking about, what are they going to do with our brother? Right? They hated their brother so much so that they wanted to what?
Kill him.
Yeah, to get rid of his brother, right? So now let's stop here. Let's think about the whole situation here. They want to kill him, and they say, here comes the dreamer. Okay, he's the person who has a lot of dreams, and we'll see what his dream amount to, and then say, we can we can just tell our father, say, your son Joseph was eaten up by ferocious or here we use the word vicious animal, and then that's the end. Probably that's the end of then the end of the story. Now let's come back. Let's go to examination. I want you to think about the first part I want to talk about. What made Jacob send his favorite son Joseph to check on his other sons in Shechem? Did Jacob know that his other children hate Joseph? Stella just mentioned Joseph like a spy, right? That's the spy on his brother. Yes, that's true. What made Jacob send his brother son Joseph to check on his other son in Shechem? Now think about, is it the first time his brother went to Shechem to pasture Jacob's flocks?
No.
Probably not, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Joseph's other brothers were what? Shepherds, right?
Mm.
But he was not. Why? He was not.
He's too young.
How old? How old? He probably young. He's a teenager, right? Probably.
Teenager?
Yeah, probably 15 or 16. Remember that what happened? And he was sold to Egypt, right? He was a young man, right? And he spent how many years in Egypt? And he became like a prime minister in Egypt, right? Like a second in commander.
Oh, because his father loved him so much.
Yes, he's a father. He was born from what? Rachel, right?
Yeah.
Rachel. You know, Rachel was Jacob's favorite wife, right? That's his son. His favorite son. He even gave him one beautiful, colorful robe, right? Clothes, right? So he wanted what? Because his wife Rachel passed away on the way back to Canaan, right? That's the only, probably only person he loved. I think it's true, right? And that's why Jacob wanted what? Jacob wanted his favorite son Joseph to stay with him.
Right. Anyway.
And Jacob said, "Oh, by the way, we still have a son, right?" He didn't remember he has another son. He has a son, David, in the field, right? So think about, but why did Jacob send his favorite son Joseph to check on his brothers? That's very something we need to know. He could have sent. Whom? He could have sent servants.
Yeah.
He could have sent servants to check on his brothers. Why did he do that? Do you think that if you were Jacob, would you send your servant to check on your brothers? Probably not. Why not? Because
they are my sons.
they are servants, right?
Yes.
Right? They are servants. Probably the sons. They say, "Oh, I don't want to listen to you. Just bring a good report, not a bad report." Right? But we know if you study, remember Shechem is the place where Joseph's brother killed. Remember Jacob's brother killed the leaders of Shechem and his son. Remember that as a story. So basically they did a lot of bad things. That's why Jacob wanted to see what's going on there. If you always behave very well, probably Jacob wouldn't send someone to check on his sons. But you have to think about it. Now here we need to understand. We know that did Jacob know that his other children hated Joseph? Do you think that Jacob knew his other sons disliked, hate, or were jealousy of Joseph?
Maybe not.
Maybe not. My answer, probably yes. Remember, Jacob gave the beautiful clothes, beautiful robe to Joseph, and also Joseph said to his brothers, and also his parents. He had a dream. He had how many dreams? At least, according to the Bible, at least 2 dreams, right? Okay. So we can think about that. And so question now, let's go to examination question number 2. Did Joseph know that his brothers were jealous of him and even wanted to kill him? Do you think that Joseph knew that his brothers were jealous of him? No? Yes or no? If no, then Joseph probably very innocent, right?
Yeah.
If yes, probably he knew, right? And he just didn't know what would become of him. He didn't know his brothers so jealous in that they wanted to kill him. And this is a great opportunity, right? No one's there, only his brothers and Joseph and wild animals anyway. Okay. But Joseph was willing to go and listen to his father's commands, right? Order, right? So you can tell what kind of person Joseph is. I think Joseph is a responsible person. You can think about it. Why? You think about when he arrived in Shechem. And he didn't find his brothers there. He could have said, okay, I'll just go home and send my father, because I didn't find my brothers in Shechem. Right? He could have done that, and he did it. And there's a man told him, oh, your brother went to Dothan, and you continue to go to Dothan. What is his brother now in Dothan? What's going to happen to him? Maybe someone said to him, oh, your brother probably went to another place. Right? But, that's what I'm saying, he is a responsible person. And later on you can tell, right? When Joseph was sold to Egypt, right? In Potiphar's house, when Joseph was in prison, when Joseph was the second in commander in Egypt, he was always responsible, right? I think that's one of the Joseph key personality traits. Response, he's full of responsibility. He's a responsible person. It's very important. Now let's go to question number 3 from examination, because his brother said about Joseph, here comes the dreamer, right? Here comes the dreamer. Now I want to think about what is the here comes the dreamer said something about Joseph and his brothers. What do you think? Here comes the dreamer said about Joseph and his dreamer. First of all, about Joseph. If someone say, oh, here comes the dreamer to describe you, what do you think about that? Think about, oh, you have a lot of dreams, right? Definitely. How do people know you have a lot of dreams? You share your dreams with them,
yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's what Joseph is, right? Each time he has a dream, and he told his dream to his brothers and to his parents. Okay. And what about his brothers? Think about if you like to share your thoughts, your dreams with the other people, and those dreams, it's so miraculous. What do we say? Amazing or miraculous. What do people think about you?
You are crazy.
You are crazy, right? Particularly his brother. Are you showing off yourself, right? Right? Are we becoming your servants, right? Think about, right? Mm-hmm. Because think about the dream, right? Your dream, he said that, suns and moon and stars bow down to me, right? Mm-hmm. So for us, we need to think about that. We need to keep those things to yourself, right? And question number 4, fill in the blank. Here comes the word with the noun that you like to be called. Explain why the noun you picked. I just want you to think about it. Okay. What do people want to call you? Here comes the dreamer, or here comes the bragger. Bragger, like to brag, like to boast about something. Or like say, oh, I should listen to God. God has said to me, blah, 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 blah. Right? Here comes the prophet. Do you think that the good turn? If someone say, oh, here comes the prophet of God, that means this person likes to say something about, oh, God just told me yesterday. God just told me just what. God will just reveal something to me. If it's not what God really tells you, so keep it to yourself, right? Or you want someone to say, oh, here comes the humble person. Here comes the child of God. Here comes what? Think about what we want people to call us. Alright? I think that's something which is learned from part of the today's Bible passage. Right? We talk about Joseph, one of the Joseph characteristics, right? He at this moment he was still very young, definitely, right? But we can tell he was a responsible person, right? I mean, he was also so naive, so innocent, so young. He always liked to tell something about his dreams. That's why that caused him what? Trouble, right? Yeah. Because he that's why he caused a lot of people trouble, even his parents, right? Okay. Yeah, he's a responsible person, that's good. But he is so innocent, not so naive. Think about when we are still young, we are pretty naive, right? When someone said to you something you like to tell someone else, right? We need to guard our mouth, right? Our tongue, right? It's very important. Yeah. But so that's something we can learn from the first part of today's reading passage. That's from chapter. But next we will continue with the rest of the story, right? The rest of the story, we can learn something about Joseph, also about his brother, as well as his father Jacob. Okay, how about let's end of today's lesson by reading. Let's go to Bible memory verse. I call it recitation, right? Genesis chapter 37, verse 28. Okay, as usual, we read it twice, right? Recitation. Let's read it in unison. 1, 2, 3, go. His brothers pulled Joseph out of the cistern and sold him for 20 pieces of silver to the Ishmaelites, who took Joseph with them down to Egypt. Genesis 37, 28. One more time. His brothers pulled Joseph out of the cistern and sold him for 20 pieces of silver to the Ishmaelites, who took Joseph with them down to Egypt. Genesis 37, 28.